Pastor Ed here with Daily Devotions for Tuesday, November the 21st, 2023. Well, it's Tuesday, and that means it's time for our weekly generosity devotion. And I want to base this today on a single verse from Hebrews chapter 13, verse 16. Do not neglect to do good and to share what you have, for such sacrifices are pleasing to God. Eugene Peterson, in his translation of the New Testament, really a paraphrase, but tried very diligently, I guess you'd say, to get closer to the way we think about not just translating the words themselves, but the meaning, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so he rendered it this way: make sure you don't take things for granted and go slack in working for the common good. Share what you have with others. God takes particular pleasure in acts of worship, a different kind of sacrifice that takes place in the kitchen and the workplace and on the streets. The idea is all about sharing. Danny Presswood once asked the question, are you sharing? And he says, one of the most stirring indictments on the church ever penned was made by Charles Schulz many years ago. In the cartoon, Snoopy is shivering out in a snowstorm beside an empty food dish. He's looking longingly, expectantly toward the house. Well, Lucy comes out and says, go in peace, be warmed and filled. And then she turned and went back into the house and slammed the door. And in the last frame, you saw a confused Snoopy looking toward the house, shivering and hungry and utterly baffled. To make known the love of Christ, says Presswood, takes more than words. It takes action. It entails results. Sharing the love of Christ with others involves sacrifice on our part. Lucy didn't share anything with poor shivering Snoopy. She did not have to sacrifice any of her time and her money, her space, her heart, her feelings, or her needs in order to make that speech, and she did not sacrifice anything to meet Snoopy's needs. To make the love of Christ known genuinely, to proclaim that love to the world accurately, means that we must reflect or copy Christ's sacrificial nature in our own lives. We reflect that love when we volunteer our most precious commodity, time, to help clean up that neighborhood park. We reflect that love when we donate the funds we would have lavished on ourselves for Christmas to the World Hunger Offering or a small and struggling mission. We reflect that love when we give our favorite foods and diapers and formula and some special goodies instead of those cans of food that have been in the closet for years to the local food pantry. And in terms of sharing our resources, a fellow by the name of Richard Goebel looked at it in this way. The number of children, and I updated his numbers from when he did it a number of years ago, the number of children who suffer from severe malnutrition around the world is 45 million, or nearly 1 out of every 3 children under the age of 5. The number of hunger-related deaths every year fluctuates between the number of hunger-related deaths every day is somewhere between 7,750 and 15,345, or as many as 11 every single minute. And then contrast with the amount of the money Americans spend annually on pet food, $58 billion. I'm not saying we shouldn't spend money on our pets. We've always had pets. Currently, we just have a dog, and we feed her and treat her as best we can. But how can we let these other things happen? Somebody once pointed out that there's only 2 things that a child will share willingly: communicable diseases and their mother's age. Sharing doesn't come naturally, is my point. Pediatricians tell us that selfishness comes before sharing. And what's one of the first things a toddler, if they learn how to speak, one of the first things after mama and dada is mine, me. They're very self-centered. And so we have to model generosity in order to teach children to share, to think about the needs of others. And we have to do that as Christians ourselves, to each other, model it to the church, model it to the generations coming up. Someone once said, the closer to sharing a person comes, the closer to God he or she gets. Sharing, he says, has nothing to do with wealth. Sharing has nothing to do with health. Sharing has everything to do with attitude. The writer to the Hebrews put it this way: do not neglect to do good and to share what you have, for such sacrifices are pleasing to God. Well, that's our generosity devotion for the week. We're going to be talking about Thanksgiving because that's just coming up in a couple of days. And so looking forward to sharing with you some thoughts about Thanksgiving, what that means, especially from a Christian perspective. So until tomorrow, take care. Have a great day. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.